So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself and talk a little bit about my goals for today. And again, I really am excited to learn who's in the room today. Before I get started, I just want to say that we're able to do these community talks for free. As Alex mentioned, we record them, we publish them online, we have some blog posts that go along with them. And we're really able to do that because we have generous federal funding through SAMHSA and the National Child Traumatic Stress Network to do some more community engagement. So we have this grant to both provide additional trauma services and care for our population and the kids that we serve, but also to do community awareness and engagement talks. So if there are topics that you would like to see, we are always eager to learn what would be helpful. And if you have an organization that you work at, parents that you support, anyone who you think might benefit from some of these, please, feel free to reach out to us, and we are happy to help support. And we can do some of that for free or for low cost, again, because we have this grant funding through the end of September 2026. Time flies. So please make sure that you make use of that while we have funding for another year or so. All right. So I'm here to talk about PCIT or parent-child interaction therapy today. And as I preview this, I want to introduce myself both as a clinician, someone who's passionate about parent-child interaction therapy. I've been here at the Baker Center for a long time. I'm going on 9 years next month. I'm the Senior Director of Outpatient Clinical Services here, and I'm a child and adolescent psychologist by training. But my most important role is the mom of two young boys. I have my oldest son will be 3 on Sunday, which is sort of hard to believe, and I have a 4 month old. So I am in the thick of toddler parenting. And when I'm thinking about PCIT, which is a labor of love that I've been doing for about a decade, I'm a little like, how did I do this parenting work before becoming a parent myself? So it's really shaped and adjusted my approach to doing PCIT. It's informed my work, and I really want to think about how we can kind of combine the dual expertise of knowing about PCIT, but also knowing about the challenges of being a parent and how we can sort of meld those together. And when I'm saying parent, I'm really defining that very broadly. Anyone who's in a caretaker role. It could be a grandparent, it could be, foster parent, aunt, uncle, au pair, really defining family and caregiving very broadly. Okay. So again, I love some participation for those on my team who have been here. This is hour 3 of them hearing my voice drone on like the Charlie Brown teacher. So want to really invite all of you in the room to sort of share who you are, whether via the chat or if you want to unmute yourself. I'm interested. Are you a clinician? Are you a provider of some sort? Are you a parent yourself? Maybe you're both like me, sort of navigating these tricky waters where our practice informs our parenting and vice versa. Who are you? Do you have your own kid? Are you supporting kids? What are the ages that you're engaged with? Yeah. Hello.
Let's see. So yeah, I work right now I'm in Washington State, so it's really early.
Oh, thank you for being here.
But I live in New York. I work for Orange County Department of Mental Health. I'm a satellite clinician in a school district in Orange County. I work with students kindergarten through 12th grade, and I have two children who are 19 years old and almost 15. So it's a different kind of interaction now, but definitely being a parent has helped inform working with families for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for being here in the early morning, it looks like.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share who they are, why they're here, how many appendages you have along with you? to sit with silence. Oh, I see there's some in the chat. Okay, we got lots of dual parents and clinicians. Awesome. Very cool. Thank you for those of you. Oh, sorry. Is my share screen, put the share screen down so we can, is it good? Okay, thank you, Mary. Um, okay. Well, welcome everybody. So happy to have you here. Thank you for sharing how old your kids are. Another thing I'd love to hear on, what do you wish you had in terms of tools to support kids differently? And what are some of the common challenges that you face? This could be with your own kids, could be with kids you support. What do you hear from folks?
I'm a talker. I don't mind. Um, One thing that I found that was missing as my children got older is there seems to be a lack of social, like in opportunities for socialization. Like when they were younger, there were all these mom groups, you could meet other parents, you could get your kids together for play dates and stuff. And as they got older, it just all fell away. And there just seems to be a lot less out there for children as they get to be more like 10, 11, 12, and less as teenagers. And it's not like they're completely independent. They still need support. They still need help, maybe socializing, meeting other kids. And the parents still want like connection with other parents. And as people move away and don't necessarily like maintain connections with the people they met when their kids were babies, there's just kind of like a lack of support as your kids get older,
Sure.
I found.
Right. So I see other comments about blended families, insurance not cover parenting training. That's sometimes exactly what's needed. I could go on a whole soapbox about that, Ivy. Or sorry, yep, Ivy. And then, for older kids, because yes, I think for those of you who are here today, if you're unfamiliar with PCIT, PCIT is really an intervention that is made and designed for kids in the 2 to 7 year old age range. Hold on, let me not go forward too much, but there are other interventions that are really similar to PCIT that have been shown to be really effective. We do a lot of those interventions here at our outpatient clinic, the Center for Effective Therapy. Many of those are called things like behavioral parent training, parent management training, many of the core components, again, of PCIT. And we do offer something called care training, child adult relationship enhancement training, and that's really geared towards kids ages 6 to 18. So many of the common elements of what we talk about today can be adjusted for older kids, but today this talk is really geared towards the little ones. All right. So, I like an agenda. So, my goal today is to orient you a little bit to what PCIT is, give a sense of what to expect from treatment. So, maybe you are someone who's going to be recommending this to a family you support. Maybe someone's mentioned it to you and they say, what is this stuff? Is it play therapy? Is it family therapy? Is it individual? I don't know. So orient you to that a little bit so you can speak to it more. My goal is to leave you with some tangible skills today to sort of teach you what we call the pride skills, and then to answer any questions that you might have. So, just to start, again, I'm a mom. I'm also a clinician, and there is a whole lot of information out there. We are in the era of mom influencers and parenting blogs. And, sometimes in my work, I say there's like no one parenting book that's going to meet all your needs, but there's like a million of them, and which one works for you and which one works for your kid. And maybe you have one kid where things were easy, and then the second one comes around, and you're like, I'm doing all the same stuff, but they are just throwing me for a loop. And we're also in a world where there are trends for better or worse. So, there's lots of information. Timeout is really bad. It's traumatizing for kids, or praise is bad, and we're softening them up by providing them with praise. So there's a whole lot of information out there. And unfortunately, we're not always the best at getting science-backed information out into the broader community. And that's a lot of why we're trying to do these talks for you here at Baker Center, so that we can kind of bridge what we call the research to practice gap and share information, hopefully in a way that's really digestible and accessible, but that's also really supported by science and the empirical literature. Because as I love, scrolling through Instagram, especially when I'm up with my little one at 3 a.m., not all of that is really backed by the science. And so we want to make sure that we're providing you with the information that's most up to date, most relevant, and most supported. Okay. And the nice thing is that PCIT has about 5 decades of really strong empirical support. There's over 300 research-backed articles in support of PCIT. It's on national registries of evidence-based practice, and it's recognized as a family's first intervention. So the empirical base is really, really strong, and you could look up almost anything with PCIT, and it's been studied: PCIT in autism, PCIT and selective mutism. There's a wide, wide range of applicability for these young kids. So I know there's so much information out there, but for the 2 to 7 year old age range, we can almost always confidently say there's going to be some form of PCIT or some adaptation of PCIT that's really going to be most recommended for these kids. Okay. And I think that can be really useful because there's also a registry of PCIT providers, and you can feel with pretty good faith that if you find a PCIT provider, they're going to know how to adapt these interventions for the different needs that these kids are presenting with. Some of the basic foundational theory behind PCIT, there's three primary ones. The first is something that we call social learning theory. And so for those of us who are caregivers, clinicians, or both, we know that what kids see is what they do. So modeling is important. In our team, we talk a whole lot about wearing our oxygen mask because caregiving is really, really stressful. And so just thinking, how to support caregivers in being regulated, being calm, making sure they're modeling, getting their own levels of support, doing that self-care that sometimes we pay lip service to, but we say, oh, we don't have time for that ourselves. It's really crucial because our kids are picking up on that. They will pick up on stress, they will pick up on the language that we use. And so we have a lot of power to model for kids, especially if you're working in a school, you're working in an environment where there's more kids, foster care where you're seeing lots of kids come into the home. That type of social learning approach is really, really powerful. Okay. A lot of times, unfortunately, many of us sort of learn from what was done for us. And that's where we can sometimes inadvertently repeat caregiving strategies that we know maybe we don't want to repeat, but it is second nature to us. And so PCAT is really thinking about that really expertly and thinking about how can we make some of those adjustments so we're modeling the behavior we like and want to see more of in our kids. PCIT is also really focused on attachment theory. So parent-child interaction therapy. How is that caregiver-child relationship, and how can we foster and support and strengthen the relationship? Sometimes there are kids who are coming in for PCIT and that relationship is really fractured. Caregivers and kids are going at it. There's tension. They're not getting along well together, and we really want to make sure that we change that and that we are enjoying spending time with our kids again. Sometimes there's already a strong relationship, and we're just strengthening it even more, and we're really thinking about that relationship as a vehicle to help support positive change for the child and the caregiver, because we know when there's skin in the game, when we feel supported by someone, we're willing to do that extra work. We're going to work harder. We're going to show up in different ways. And so we're really working on supporting that attachment relationship and then leveraging it to help see some of the change we want to see. I know, back to my social media slide, there's a whole lot out there about, gentle parenting or um, FAO parenting. I think I'm not allowed to say the acronym out loud, but FAFO parenting. There's all different types of parenting strategies right now. But what we know from the literature is Baumrind really talked about different parenting styles and what sets kids up for the best success long term. Okay. And so what she really found, it's like a Goldilocks type of thing. There's permissive parenting, where caregivers are filled with warmth but aren't really enforcing rules. I think this is probably more in the gentle parenting world right now and in sort of our common lexicon. Can feel really, really good, can feel really attentive, and responsive to kids. And a lot of times we are seeing these kids who don't know how to follow rules, limits aren't being set, and they're struggling in environments to be successful. There's also sort of the authoritarian parenting, which is what we might think of as like that old school parenting. Well, no one wanted to hear from me. Kids are meant to be seen, not heard. They got to listen to what their caregivers say. And that's really high demand, low warmth for kids. Okay. My Goldilocks or Baumrind's Goldilocks approach is we kind of want the perfect blend of both what we call authoritative parenting. So high warmth, and we're going to go over today how we really help establish that warmth with specific skills, and also high demandingness. If we think about, when we are the most successful, it's often when we're pushed in sort of the proximal zone of development, where we're challenged, where we have people who say, "I know you can get to that next level," and sometimes saying no, setting limits, is an expression of love and trust, and saying, "I really believe in you." And if you all think about what you have to do in your respective roles and your work, demandingness and expectation is a part of that. So when we take that away from kids, we're saying we don't think that you have that capacity. Okay. So we really want this blend of high warmth and high demand. Any questions there about sort of the framework or theory behind PCIT to get us started? Okay. I'll keep it moving. So I've alluded to this a little bit already, but PCIT is an evidence-based treatment for kids ages 2 to 7. Interestingly, it was originally developed for kids with what we call disruptive behavior disorder. So the classic acting out, kids who talk back, might hit, you ask them a question, their answer is no. The kids who, for those of us who are clinicians in the room, are sort of the most frequent flyers to our referral base because they get in trouble at school, they get in trouble at home, they get in trouble in extracurriculars. Right? That's really what PCIT was developed on. Since the late 70s, early 80s, when PCIT was first started, it's really now been sort of made the gold standard treatment for ADHD, attention challenges, challenges with impulsivity. It's really a frontline treatment for kids who've experienced trauma exposure, traumatic stress. And there are adaptations of PCIT for anxiety, for selective mutism. You can do PCIT for kids with high functioning autism. So, really, again, most of the things that you're going to see in this early childhood age range can be addressed through parent-child interaction therapy, which is pretty incredible for us as providers to have sort of a one-stop shop for this age range. What we also know about kids who come for sort of clinically referred treatment in the 2 to 7 age range are these are kids who, if we don't do effective care, they're going to need services long term. So I like to think of PCAT as both an early intervention program, but also a prevention program for many of the problems that can be compounded if these problems aren't adequately addressed early and often. Just a little plug about trauma, because again, we do have a trauma grant that's supporting this work. I talked a little bit in the beginning about caregivers often use practices that were used with them. So maybe there were parenting styles like physical punishment, or maybe there's substance abuse in the home, or really harsh discipline that's been transported across generations. A lot of times in many of our psychotherapy treatments, we don't engage caregivers who have these histories because we say sort of they're unsafe. PCIT, we take a really different approach and philosophy. We really say, you know what, that is how you were raised and how you learned. And PCIT is providing you and empowering you with a different set of skills so you can show up for your child in a new, more positive, more adaptive, and more supportive way. So we will engage caregivers, and there's some really great literature about that engagement. We see rates of recidivism for maltreatment, abuse, neglect really decrease when caregivers are provided with this positive, opposite, sort of corrective approach to caregiving. So we're, again, really encouraging anyone involved in the child to participate in this type of treatment and to see it as really supported. In PCIT, there are two primary phases. There's a phase called child-directed interaction, where we're essentially working with caregivers to teach them how to be really strong play therapists with specific set of skills. And that's really based on building that strong, warm attachment relationship, where we're teaching caregivers how to connect with their child. And interestingly, again, for the clinicians in the room, we as clinicians are not the agents of change. We really see caregivers as the agents of change because they're the ones who are going to be there. And if we're doing our jobs right, there's so many kids in this age range who need support. We want to make ourselves obsolete. We want to make sure that the caregiver is the advocate for the child, the one who really understands the child's need, the one who can speak to school teams, to in-home therapy teams, to other providers about what it is that's going to support their child in being successful. Some of my favorite, most classic PCIT families, they're like, you know what, Sarah, I was on my way to vacation and I had some extra time at the gate at the airport, and I was just telling everyone I saw about PCIT. And then I get a list of referrals, and I'm like, how did you hear about us? And they're like, there was this woman in gate C at the airport, and she told me to call you. So we're really making sure that caregivers understand this intervention because, again, they're the ones who are there with their kid all the time. And we want them to be able to implement the skills in real world situations. So we're using positive parent interactions to help facilitate that and teaching some rudimentary behavior management skills. And then parent directed interaction is the second phase where we're sort of addressing what's left over. We're saying you've got this really strong foundation, you've got this really strong relationship. Now we're going to teach you some structured consequence and disciplinary strategies that are really clear, consistent, and predictable. Any thoughts or questions yet? All right, I'm going to take that as that means I'm explaining things clearly. Okay. So I think I covered some of this, but in the first phase, we're really teaching caregivers specific skills to strengthen the warmth and the attachment relationship. We talk about catching kids being good. For those of you, again, who work with young children in this age range or have your own, they are very, very skilled at getting attention for what we call unwanted behaviors. They know if they throw something across the classroom, if they go up and whack their little brother, boom, guaranteed I'm going to get caregiver attention. But a lot of times we have kids who are sitting there using appropriate words, saying, can I have help, please? Maybe raising their hand in class, sitting nicely. And no one's paying attention to that because that's what they should be doing. In PCIT, we really want to flip that on its head. We want to catch kids being good, and we want to notice, praise, label, and describe those behaviors that we like and want to see more of because attention is really our adult superpower. And whatever we pay attention to, that's going to happen more. So I'm not saying that we do not intervene if a kid goes over and whacks their sibling or a peer at school. Of course, we have to keep kids safe, but we really want to change the amount of attention that we pay and pay more attention for positive behaviors and reduce attention for unwanted behaviors, because then those behaviors are going to start to dissipate and go away more and more. We call this differential attention. Okay, and that's one of the big superpowers in PCIT. Much easier said than done. And that's really going to be part of how we support caregivers in this intervention, by really paying attention to those minute details of what we attend to and what we don't. Again, this is going to help caregivers pay much more attention to praiseworthy behaviors that we like and want to see more of, because we're going to have a clinician coaching them on pointing out the behaviors that are positive and that are happening and that are really noteworthy, because we're paying attention to so many positive behaviors, again, many things that fly under our radar, this is going to help enhance self-esteem for some of our kiddos who are getting messages that they're bad, or that they misbehave or they're not liked in this early age range. Okay, so we're going to combat that message with our positive attention. And just by thinking about how we pay attention and what we pay attention to, we're going to start to see problematic behaviors decrease. We do this in something that we call special time. That's sort of our vehicle for practicing. It's like the medicine in PCIT. It's a concentrated dosage of positive attention where we're using these skills that are listed out here. They're called the pride skills, and I'll go into them in a little bit more detail. So we're finding 5 minutes a day where we're having the caregiver play with the child according to their rules, using pride skills, and avoiding what we call don't skills, which are questions, commands, and criticisms. I'll go into that in more depth. The second phase is called parent-directed interaction, where we are teaching caregivers a really consistent, predictable set of disciplinary strategies focused on compliance at first, and then moving into things like hurting, property destruction, behavior that's never acceptable. That is often why some of the kids are coming in to seek PCIT. But what's really important, and again, what makes this a trauma-informed formed families first intervention, is that the response to misbehavior is always predictable, consistent, clear. We say there's no secrets in PCIT, and caregiver one, caregiver two, caregiver four, five, six are using all the same approach. And because we have 5 decades of support, both research and clinical in PCIT, we've thought about a lot of the loopholes that come in different parenting programs. And we're able to really work with caregivers to say we're closing those loopholes. We're taking some of the fun out of misbehavior by making it really predictable and consistent. And again, we're taking a growth mindset, really a positive mindset, where we're teaching kids you can listen. It's not that you can't listen, because I got a lot of kids who come in and say, I can't listen, I can't control my body. No, those things are hard. And it's for us as the adults in your life to learn how we can adjust our approach to make it easier for you to listen and easier for you to behave. All right. So getting into our pride skills. Pride, again, is an acronym, PRIDE, and the P stands for praise. Okay. There are two types of praise that we think about in PCIT. I'm going to just pick on Patricia because I see her right there on my screen. So if I say, hey, Patricia, good job. How does that feel for you, Patricia? Feels okay. She's like, I'm not upset about being told good job at 11:30 in the morning, right? Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But if Hannah on my screen is like, well, my video's on, and how come Patricia got a shout out and I didn't get a shout out? Hannah has no idea what it was that Patricia did. And Patricia doesn't even know. If I say, hey, Patricia, I really like how your video is on and how you're smiling when I'm talking, it helps me know that you're paying attention. Right? Well, then Hannah might start smiling and nodding, or maybe someone else turns their screen on and they're like, Sarah, I'm here too. And then I'm teaching everybody what I like, what I appreciate, what I want to see more of. And that's the difference between unlabeled and labeled praise. There's nothing wrong with a good job or a thank you. But if I can say, good job of joining, good job of nodding your head, good job of making eye contact with the camera when I'm talking, wow, she really likes that. And our kids are really, really hungry for that type of information because they don't often get it from us. Okay. Again, we hold it off for sort of what we think of as praiseworthy behaviors rather than the behaviors that they should do. Okay. So, we really want to be thinking about what is it that will help a kid be more and more successful. If you're working in a school or if you're working with a caregiver, what is it that they want to see? They're really good often at coming in and saying, like, well, they're just like a Tasmanian devil running all over the classroom, interrupting everyone. Okay, so anytime you see them sitting down with a nice, quiet body, thanks for sitting crisscross applesauce. I love how you're using that inside voice. Okay. Thanks for raising your hand before you answer that question. Okay. So we can really think about what it is that the child needs to work on, and we can give specific labeled praise for that behavior, and then it's going to happen more. So it's a way to help complement a child's behavior, to teach them what we like and want to see more of. And for us, it's a way for us to pay more attention to the things that our kids are already doing. And again, use this framework of catching them being good. So I've got some examples down here, but sort of the equation, the formula for labeled praise is one positive and one specific. And again, while this is geared for kids in the 2 to 7 age range, it works on husbands, it works on fur babies, it works on employees, coworkers, colleagues. It works on someone that you might just see down the street. Thanks for holding the door for me. Okay, it's sort of part of being a good citizen in our world, and it's fairly easy to use. So I encourage you to practice. You'll probably get a lot more smiles, especially in the early hours of the day. Yeah, go ahead.
I I love it so much because I feel like it would make the students feel so much more seen and like seen as an individual and not as like a number in the classroom of 30 kids. That makes them feel special. And also it can be confusing if they say good job. It's like, okay, what? Like be specific. Everybody wants to hear specifics.
Absolutely. I'm proud of you for
Yeah.
what, right? You want to feel like you're earning that. You want to feel
Mhm.
like you did something to
Right.
accomplish and achieve it. And that's where that high demandingness comes in, right? It's not that we don't have any expectations for you, it's that we have them and you're able to achieve them, right? I saw that that was really hard for you. I love how you stuck with it. Right? So really recognizing and validating kids. Exactly. All right, the R in the pride skill stands for reflection. So this is sort of our active listening strategies. And again, with kids, a lot of times we're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't pay a ton of attention to what they say, except of course, unless they're using sort of foul language like you're a poopy head or get out or, all the stuff that gives us a big reaction. So this is basically like our validation skill with young children. A kid says, I'm building a tower. The caregiver says, you are building a tower. It helps us as caregivers or folks who work with kids follow the kid's lead rather than take over the lead. And it's also a great way to support language development, and to scaffold and model, especially, some of those early language developmental skills. Maybe a kid has a lisp or they don't fully know the words for it. It's a great way to teach some of that language development and also to teach reciprocity in communication. I'm thinking about some of my kids who have ADHD where they just monologue and they talk, 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 talk. And this is a way to say, oh, you're telling me about your Pokemon cards. Thanks for giving me a chance to speak as well. So you can pair it up with that labeled praise. Okay. So it's as simple as, I made a house for dinosaurs. You made a house for dinosaurs. Not saying, oh, a house? Or why'd you make a house for dinosaurs where you're putting sort of the onus of responding on the kid, but just reflecting it back. And then oftentimes we see their language blossom. Yeah, it's a house for dinosaurs, and I'm going to put all of them in here, and I'm adding more pieces on. And kids really like when we give them this opportunity and when we reflect it back. We're not on our phones. We're not saying, "What did you say?" We're saying, "What you're saying to us is really valuable and important, and we hear you." I is sort of a both a verbal and nonverbal skill. It stands for imitation. We say imitation is the largest form of flattery, and this is sort of getting down with kids and playing according to their rules. So not just kind of sitting up in my chair and saying, "Oh yeah, you're doing all those things down there." It's like I'm getting down on the floor with you, or if I can't physically get down on the floor with you, we're playing on a table or we're playing on my bed. We're playing together. Right? We want kids in interactive play. So this is really going to help support their social skill development, support turn taking, make the play really enjoyable, and make sure that it stays at the appropriate developmental level. Because even playing with a 3-year-old is going to be really different than a 6-year-old. Again, it's a great way to follow their lead and increase some of their vocabulary and make the play really fun. The next skill is behavior descriptions, or D in our PRIDE acronym. And this is what we call our sportscaster skill. It's basically where we're providing narration and color commentary for what we see kids doing. You're picking up the blue block, you're adding the blue block to the red block, you're building a tower with all of your blocks, and now you're driving your cars underneath the bridge of the tower. Okay. For our kids with ADHD, especially, but for all kids, it helps them focus in on what they're doing. And by using this skill, we actually can see attention spans increase. It's another great way to model language and vocabulary development, and a great way for us to follow the kids' lead because we're not asking what they're doing again, which takes over the lead of the play, but we're saying, "This is what I see you doing, and I approve of that." And it will really help spawn this creativity with kids. Here we're really thinking about one-on-one special time or child-directed time with kids where we're using these skills. But for those of you who work in a school, this is a great way, again, to sort of redirect towards the behavior we want to see. So if you're coming in from recess and you want the kids to start sitting back down for an academic period, so and so is in their chair, and I see so and so putting their backpack away, and your eyes are on me. And then again, you're teaching the rest of the kids exactly what it is that you want to see by pointing out that behavior. The last skill is the most important skill. We always tell caregivers we want them to come with enjoyment. Okay. In PCIT, the clinician is really going to be coaching the caregiver around these verbal skills. The goal is to get a really high frequency of those skills because that's what's going to make it a therapeutic dosage. But we can't teach enjoyment. We need the caregiver to show up with enjoyment. The skills will come. That's really the clinician's job. But we want them to have 5 minutes a day of positive time with their child where they're getting silly, their phone is away, they're getting down, they're playing, and they're showing their kid, even if you got sent home early from school, or even if we just got into a big fight, I love you. I want this time with you. And we're going to be connecting with one another, especially in those days that are really tough and taxing, because we don't want caregivers feeling like, "I love my kid, but I don't like my kid." And that's a lot of who we see in PCIT because that relationship has become so fractured. So we want to restore that relationship, give them that opportunity for warmth, and the skills are going to help reinforce that and give them a vehicle for strengthening that relationship. All right, any questions about those pride skills? Okay. So when we put it together, we want caregivers to use the pride skills to follow the child's lead. We like to use sort of open-ended creative play games, things like Legos, Magnetiles, drawing. We're using this as really the primary agent of change in therapy. We do it in the first phase and we build off of it in the second phase. And all we're saying is 5 minutes a day, playing with your kid according to their rules and using these verbal skills. And in 5 minutes a day, that's long enough that it's therapeutic, that you're going to see major behavior change. We hope it's short enough that you can really feasibly fit this into your life, your routine, and give them that sort of dosage of good therapeutic intervention. If there is unsafe or aggressive behavior, we tell caregivers that's where we put some limit setting in place in PCIT. Special time's finished because you hurt me. We'll have special time again tomorrow. But really calm, really neutral. We're putting those limits in place and just teaching unsafe behavior is never okay. Any questions about any of that? I've alluded to some of the don't skills. Again, there's a lot to cover just in this, short little talk. But the things we're going to avoid in special time are questions, commands, and criticisms. Okay. We are realistic. There is no way that a kid in this age range can go through the world without being told what to do or asked a question or even criticized. Sometimes that's not real life. It's just for that 5 minutes a day so we can sort of take the things that lead to tension, like commands or questions, out of the equation. We're not correcting because it's really for the child to be in the lead, and we're here to boost self-esteem. So just for 5 minutes a day. And that's really, really hard to do. So again, that's where the clinician comes in here. Right. So I'm going to share a little video. This is about 2 minutes, just so we can see in practice what this looks like. Okay. Let me know if you can see and hear this. Thank you.
You're gonna build. I'm gonna build with you. You're building an orange, brown, and red tower.
Look, this could be a slide.
Could be a slide. That's a great
You
idea.
could climb up here and then go like this, and then you could ride off. And this could be the pool.
And that could be the pool. I love that idea. I'm gonna add to your pool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a blue high tower.
That kind of looks like crap.
And I'm going to
Mom,
add
camera sounds like crap.
some steps on the back.
Oh. My God. You could. This could be the high.
I love it when you say nice things. That could be the high dive. Oh, I love your hug, buddy. You're sweetie. I like playing with you. Oh, good job being calm.
Thank you.
You are adding some red and yellow.
It's a tornado. Boom, boom, boom.
I think I'm going to add some steps on the back. Good job, playing carefully.
Oh. The backflips.
You could do backflips. You have really good ideas.
You might get hurt doing this, but you could backflip and then land on this and then slide down the slide into the pool.
Into the pool, yeah. That would.
All right. Any thoughts, comments, or reflections on that special time clip? What did you notice about how the caregiver interacted with that child?
I loved how she ignored the negative language that he used and then praised it when he started using proper language again.
Yeah. So he said, "This looks like crap," right? And then he did it a couple times. And our gut is to say, "That's not nice," or it doesn't, I'm working really hard on this. That's mean, right? And she just kept playing. She didn't move away or anything. She just sort of removed her attention from it. She did what we call strategic ignoring. And then as soon as he changed his behavior, I love when you use nice words. So what she taught him was nice words is what's going to get my attention, not that acting out. behavior.
I didn't even hear him say that. All I saw was the caregiver being super calm and relaxed and warm and consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. And, again, there's a lot of stuff out there. Ignoring is bad. It's traumatizing for kids. It's neglectful. That is true if you're not creating a positive environment for a child. But if you're boosting up the amount of positive attention that they get, and then you selectively remove your attention for specific behavior, that's actually helping shape and teach, again, what gets attention and what doesn't. And you saw him come right over and give her a big old hug. So it didn't hurt their relationship. In fact, it can enhance the relationship because that caregiver is really consistent and predictable on how she's going to pay attention and what's going to get him that love and affection. It's really a package deal there. How about some of that narration? Was that different than how you normally see caregivers play with kids?
I'm sorry to talk so much, but I like this topic.
Yeah.
Um, I'm able to do home visits, and sometimes the parent will be in the room and I'll be on the floor playing with their child, and the parent is sitting on their phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she let him lead. A lot of parents, I mean, I'm always so grateful when they are vulnerable enough with me to say, no one ever sat down and played with me. I don't know how to play, you know. And what I say in PCIT is that's okay. That's your child's an expert at that. And sometimes we say to the kids, you're a play expert and you're going to help me teach your parent or your caregiver how to be a play expert. And they love that, right? Kids love to be teachers. So that's okay. That's what we're here to support you on doing. And one thing that I don't have in here is what's core to PCIT is the caregiver is playing with their child and the clinician is behind a one-way mirror or a Zoom screen coaching. So we have caregivers wear what we call a bug in the ear, which is a fancy way of saying a Bluetooth headphone. And we are there. My camera's normally off, so it's not about me saying, great job ignoring the oh crap statement there. I love how you're describing what you're doing. Oh, their body's nice and calm now. They're using nice words. What could you praise? Okay. And then the parents saying, thanks for using nice words. Great job paying attention to that. That's exactly what to praise. Now they're going to know to use nice words in the future. And we may even be saying things like, you're down on the floor. It looks like you're having a great time with them. Playing looks so much more natural for you. You've been playing in a nice way for the last 10 minutes. Okay. So we can really think about who the caregiver is, who the child is, what they need to work on, and we can tailor our coaching style to the needs of that child and family. So it's really individualized to their culture, to their situation, to the presentation that they're coming in with clinically. Okay. And that's how the caregivers are learning this at a really high dosage, at a really high skill, where we see that 5 minutes a day being an effective intervention for them. What other thoughts or questions do you have about PCIT, about recommending this for families, engaging in this with families? How can we support you in thinking about this more? Yes, we can. Alex, how does the slide deck, how does that go?
In about a week or two, we'll send the full recording, plus the slides via email to anyone who registered. So as long as you're here, you should be getting it.
Awesome.
I think something helpful would be sort of like a parent friendly sheet with the skills. I could make one from the slide deck, unless you guys have one already, that I could give to the parents and explain with them, explaining the skills so they can have it at their home, or you know what I mean? Like a
Yeah, I
parent friendly
believe
pride skills explanation sheet.
Yes. I believe that they are on our website, on our resource page. I think Alex might have put some links in there. If you haven't been to our website, we do have a lot of resources. We have blog posts that will correspond to this. We also have some social media accounts, and we encourage you to follow us. We recently put out a myth and fact sheet because there's so much information out there about some of these strategies either being harmful or bad or not effective, and really what the literature says. We tried to do that in really accessible language, but if you have edits or thoughts, we're happy to, to really take those into consideration. And another resource that we provide always to the families who come in the door for us, if they're just thinking about PCIT, is something called Pocket PCIT. I'm putting it right here in the chat. It's a free app that caregivers can use. If we have a wait list, again, if they're saying, I'm not ready to start treatment right now, this is a really great way that they can do a self-guided course in some of the core components of PCIT. And again, it's free, which is really wonderful.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Because I don't know. Where are you? Massachusetts or something?
Yep, we're in Massachusetts, so we can practice all across the state. We do have in-person offices in Boston and Waltham, but PCAT is really does well over telehealth. So, we're only licensed to practice here in the state of Massachusetts, but we can really get anywhere in the state with telehealth. A course of PCIT is typically about 15 to 20 sessions, really depending on caregiver engagement and involvement. But with that being said, there is some empirical support that with just 4 sessions, we can see really great progress. So we're really doing it more as a therapeutic intervention for clinically elevated kids here at our outpatient center. But, we love to train pediatricians. We love to think about how just using the positive parenting skills is just general good parenting practice. And we have a training called CARE that is a 4-hour training that caregivers or providers can participate in. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can contact us as well. We accept one mass health plan right now, the Tufts Public Plan. We do have a sliding scale at our clinic, and we're in process of getting accredited so that we can take a broader panel of mass health, and we're hoping that that will be possible starting in January 2026. Is putting the insurance providers that we accept right now. Thank you, Sydney. So again, this is a very brief overview. We could talk about PCIT all day long. It's something that we love to do here at our center. And if you're like, oh man, this sounds perfect, but I've got kids who are older, again, we have interventions that really use these core components but are aged up for older kids. We can do this for teenagers too. So our motto is always don't worry alone. If you think that this could be beneficial, please reach out and we're happy to be a thought partner and help connect you to those resources. All right. Well, thank you for the active participation. Thank you for rolling with me to the people that I called on and being a brave participant. And we hope that this was helpful. Please let us know talks that would be beneficial in the future and hope that it's a good rest of your day. If you're here on the East Coast, stay cool because it is hot out there.
Thank you.